And now what you've really been waiting for, the new music video from my homeboy, Mr. Donnie Dumphy.
Yeah, Buzz, it's Donnie Dumphy here. Just out rapping, no jib rap. People always ask Donnie, you know, what are you all about? Well, here it is. Made my first 50 bucks rolling smokes for mother. First thing I bought was a case of beer and a rubber. I was born in the cab and the boys were too. Looking at each other, sure our dies at you. There's nothing like sitting with a bottle of Screech, a purity cracker and a bucket of salt beef. Then heads to Jimmers to get me script, and you know what that means, 1,200 bits! Drop down the Nan sitting next to me. I'm weighing grams, she's watching Jeopardy. See, I get some inspiration from the movie Dune. Best order wasn't good, see, it was Boom.
Donnie, Donnie, Donnie.
Brenda, what do you want?
Take us for a ride, take us for a jaunt.
Honda 50, get her on the go, get her on the grab. I don't mind on the front,
I don't mind on the back.
stop at the shop for a loaf of bread. Spent all our money on Nevadas instead. Cherries. If you got beef with Dumphy, I wouldn't be so inclined. Cause I'm not friggin' around, and I'm just having a time. Having a time, having a time. That's what I said, I'm just having a time. Breakfast, having a time. Wheelies, having a time. Headlocks, having a time. Drunk tank, not so much a time. If you got beef with Dumphy, end up with two black eyes. Your mother had it coming, and I'm still having a time.
Hash, Father only smokes the hash by Gold Stein.
Yeah, hash only gets you so fucking high unless you got a four-wheel drive.
I'll say this once and I'll say it clearly. Dumphy's on the cup next to Danny Cleary. I'm Clyde, Brenda's Bonnie. You may drink like a fish, but a fish drinks like Donnie. Was gonna ask Brenda to marry me, but then wrestling came on. It was WWE. Come on, get down with the dumb persona. Case of beer, pack of darts, and the rest in Bologna. So pour yourself a brew, cause I'm about to get surly. This one's for the boys out in Fort McMurray. You got beef with Dumphy, I wouldn't be so inclined. Cause I'm not friggin' around, and I'm just having a time. Having a time, having a time. That's what I said, I'm just having a time. George Street, having a time. Brenda, having a time. Bingo, having a time. House arrest, still having a time. So look, that's my story. What are you at? Like Danny Williams, I'm putting Newfoundland on the map. And Labrador.
Let's talk a little bit about skateboarding. Okay, so Donnie Dumphy, there's a ton of YouTube videos. How to Be Deadly came out back in, was it, you started on that 2012, came out around 2015?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. I'm in Campbellford, Ontario. My daughters are at Campbellford High School. We're in the middle of Ontario. And they come home singing, having a time. And I'm like, well, where did you hear that? And they're like, everybody in school is singing it. This song is so popular. I'm like, we're in Campbellford, Ontario. How the hell are you guys hearing about something happening in Newfoundland? Did you expect at all to have that type of reach when you were doing that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I thought, yes, it would hit in Newfoundland a little bit, but no, I didn't think it would have an Ontario, Vancouver, US reach. No, I had no idea. No.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll hopefully we'll get the video to show it, but yeah, I mean that video has great crossover. I mean, it's so accessible. Everything about the show and about the project, you know, in all of its from the music to the video to the YouTube stuff, it's all it's all very well done.
Oh yeah, thanks. I think that was the motto was let's not suck. Was always what we'd say to each other.
Well,
Let's
and
try
even
not to
with
suck.
when I watched Skeet, there's a few noticeable things. When I watched Skeet, I was very aware that there was no sort of orchestrated soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that added to the being brought into the dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of moments of silence where all you heard was air and words. You don't usually get that in a television or movie program. There's usually a string pad or something underneath.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that in Skeet, and I found that very. When I first sort of noticed it about 8 minutes in, I was like, "What's going on?" And then I kind of went, "Oh, this is really driving me into or bringing me into the drama of it."
Yeah. Yeah. Skeet was filmed not only 7 years between shots. I mean, all those shots of Sean and the boy. I mean, the
Yeah.
boy, the first clip is a boy who's 8 years old. 10 minutes later, the same boy is 15. It's the same actor. It's not a different actor. It tells you how long we've been making this film. And that's Jackson Petton, who did a brilliant job playing Brandon, the son. You know, and then when we did film, we made sure that we filmed over seasons, so it didn't appear that Billy and Mo were fast friends over 2 weeks in the summer.
Right.
So actually, we filmed in the summer, we filmed in the fall, and we filmed in the winter. You know, and so when you see them, you know, meet in the summertime, there's leaves on the trees. Next thing you know, there's a montage and they're shoveling snow out, right?
Right.
So Skeet was very well planned and prepped. Like we had an office downtown. We did rehearsals every day. Like we put a lot of time into getting ready for Skeet. You know, and as going back to your question about like the music, like yeah, we didn't want a dialogue or a sort of sort of performance of just picking our favorite songs to go to the thing. We wanted it to be very calculated. Whereas like How to Be Deadly is kind of a fun day in the life, like a Dazed and Confused, which can ride the soundtrack out and be that sort of fun sort of day. But then when you film a day in the life, you forget about other things. Like everybody has to have 3 different types of the same wardrobe, and don't spill your lunch on your wardrobe because we can't film, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think with Skeet, we had more time in prep to be a little bit more methodical in terms of thinking and in terms of Andrew Stanley did the score for Skeet. I can tell you that if you spoke to Andrew, he'd say it was a long process because it was. He made like a library prior to the edit,
Right.
and we rebuilt that library several times, and it was always born to feeling. Like every scene was born to feeling, and we wouldn't stop until we were happy with the feeling of it. Yeah.
And the new stuff looks great. Did you find shooting outside, which seems to be a majority shareholder in the series? Did that help with lighting, or
Yeah,
was that part of the thought?
It always does. Yeah. I mean, shooting outside always helps with lighting. I mean, you can get boned pretty heavy too. I mean, like I remember we shot Skeet going, "Oh, this is great. You know, St. John's is pretty gray this time of year." And then we had the nicest summer ever. And then you're throwing up, you know, giant flat 20 buys, or, you know, I think we could only afford 10 buys, but, you know, we have like big flags trying to hide this bright sun. Right.
Right.
You know, in Skeet, we, you know, it's a tight budget. It's a very tight budget. So we were lucky that we had a crew that believed in it and wanted it to be a good film. You know, everyone would talk about the importance of the film, like while we were shooting it. And that goes a long way, because I've been on shoots where people don't believe in the script and they don't really have, they're more concerned what's for lunch than they are what you're shooting that day. So it was really important that everyone was on board and wanting to make a good film. And I think when you got that behind you, you know, your chances of making a good film are much better. With Littledale, you know, we have a very shoestring budget, and we shoot in the what's Mitchell Court and Stab Court. I'm sure you remember these places as a kid, and these were dangerous places growing up. Like these were places you wouldn't walk through. And
Yep.
I can honestly say that we've now hired some people from the community to be sort of background actors or come work on the show with us. And we now even rent out this woman Liz's house, so we sort of go in and eat lunch at her place and hang out with her, and she tells us stories, and it's fascinating, you know, because now we're sort of making these connections in this neighborhood that I was once scared to walk through, and now I'm like, I can't wait to get back to Stab Court, you know, because And it's true. I feel safer in Stabcourt than I do in downtown, which was not the case 20 years ago.
It's so funny you say that. I was going to ask it, but I wasn't sure. I mean, growing up, I grew up just under the hill at Brophy Place. So I got beaten up by the Brophy Place, characters all the time, all the Drukins up there.
Yeah.
And then, I'd have to go down past Chocolate Place to get to the Y every now and again. And, you'd get beaten up all the time by the Yetmans down in Chocolate Place.
Did you get chased in your skateboard too?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah, me too.
And you head out to Mundy Pond, I'd go out to see my grandmother and I'd have to go past the Mundy Ponders. And it was all these places where as a kid, and I was a tall, skinny kid. I was the one who got picked on all the time. So I got beaten up daily.
Yeah.
And going to places like this, when I was talking to Sean and he told me that you shot some of the Skeet in Chocolate Place, like I was thinking, like later in life, I've got some friends in these places now, and I don't feel any sort of weirdness about going to Chocolate Place or Brophy Place or any of these spots. As a kid, it was just fear of getting beaten up by other kids. But I'm fascinated that you've spent so much time in these places, and everything there looks so comfortable. It doesn't look like a dangerous place.
I was a bit nervous and apprehensive about going into Chocolate Place because I too was chased out of places. I grew up next to Buckmaster Circle, and I would have to bomb the hill on my skateboard to try to get home and have a gang of guys chasing me, waiting to kick my ass. And I was nervous about it. And when I got in there, and as Sean said, like it was totally fine. It was totally safe. And there's a much more. The bus would drop off the kids after school. And it was like the United Nations of children. They were from every country, and sometimes I'd look at that and go, I think that might be why it's a bit more safe than it is when we were kids. There's also a couple like sort of legendary people that live in these communities that kind of self-police it as well.
Yeah,
I got to know a few people. They're like, yeah, so and so apartment down, or housing down there, a drug dealer moved in and we got rid of them. So they see it, they know where the problem is. It comes in, they flag it, they get them out right away. And I think that goes a long way in community. And I think when you go into these communities, like, when we go into Littledale or we go into Skeet, like it's we're not here to poke fun. We're here to like, sort of celebrate the community in a way. That's my intention.
Yeah, especially
in the edit. But they have to give you a lot of trust with that too, right? You know what I mean? So we had a screening where we invited everyone from Chocolate Place for Skeet, and as well as the Arabic community, and same with Littledale. Like we Gina Cook, who plays Brenda, she goes and hangs out with Liz in Littledale, or sorry, Stab Court, Mitchell Court, once a week or twice a week. I was just back. We were doing some scripts. She goes, can you pick up Liz a case of Pepsi? She, and I would drive down and go, Gina told me to drop this off for you, and she like, not just drop off stuff, like hang out, talk.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go in these neighborhoods and film, I think you do have to have some sort of good rapport with people in there. But yeah, going back, like I always ask this question, Ken, like, do these tough guys or corner boys that used to beat us up when we were kids, are they too busy doing this now that they don't even see us go by anymore? Is that like, because they used to gather outside and are they inside on screens and doing other things? Like I don't hear people getting chased anymore or getting randomly beat up as much, or guys look on the corner waiting for a fight.
That doesn't exist anymore the way I see it. Yeah, I know it's like bullying has been flagged so much now. Yeah. I remember being by the time I was in grade 3. I hated recess and lunch and the 10 minutes before and after school, because that was when I got picked on every day. Yeah. Nowadays, that wouldn't happen. There'd be interference from teachers or some kind of something, and it would be different. Good or bad, I don't know. I know that what I had was what I had, and what my kids have is way different than what I had. But yeah, I wonder where the bullies are. What are they doing? What are they taking their time up with now? I don't know.
Have you ever run into any of those guys that sort of went after you?
I have. I've actually become friends with a few of them over the years.
Wow.
And they're the best kind. They're.
Do they add you on Facebook or something? Do they add you and send you a note?
I've drank with a few of them. Spend a night drinking, see them in a club. And
No.
I've got one bully who started bullying me in grade 5 and continued right up until grade 8 when I finally punched him. He started coming to my shows. And he shows up, and I mean, I get off stage, and he's up hugging me, and oh my God, Ken, we've been friends in school, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you fucking asshole, you made my life horrible.
Oh no. Yeah, and then some in some strange way, I don't know his circumstances, the bully, but he might have grown up in a home or some sort of background where that was just everyday activity with
Yep,
his parents or his siblings.
yep,
He got in a fight, he forgot about it, and it was over.
yeah,
Yeah, some kids like that feel heard might not let go of that.
yeah. In all honesty, most of the bullies that I had growing up, I have encountered since, right, including my dad. Like before my dad died, I had to sit down with him and say, hey, do you have any fucking regrets for all the drinking and the shit that you put us through when we were kids? I've approached everybody,
Yeah,
including most of my bullies from younger, and a lot of them are just normal guys. They grew up in a terrible time. They were being picked on or abused in their own way, and they were just looking for a way to take it out. And school was the place to do it. And I mean, it's just what it was.
that's a little bit about how Billy Skinner came to be.
Mhm.
What makes these types,
Yeah,
these skeet bully types, or the violent types?
yeah. It's an interesting look. You've done a really good job, an amazing job of capturing this part of the Newfoundland culture, from a humorous point of view and from a serious point of view. It's an amazing thing for a producer, director, writer to do. I think that's incredibly complex work modes to go through, and congratulations on that.
Thanks, man.
I want to
Appreciate
go
it.
back and talk to you a little bit about skateboarding.
Yeah,
So back in the early 80s, myself, Clark Hancock, Danny Thomas, Chris Jarrett, Bob Average, John Pastore, a few others had skateboards. And then there was some of the suburban Noah Hansen and a few other guys that came down as well. And we had a skate crew of about 25 of us that hung out on Atlantic Place steps every day in the 80s.
yeah,
And between the arcade and Atlantic Place steps and the War Memorial, you would always find, a group of 5 or 7 of us being booted out of one place and going to the other. And we rode our skateboards. I grew up out by the airport. I'd ride my skateboard over to Clark's place, which was down in Pleasantville, and then we'd go through Pleasantville down through Kitty Vitty and make our way downtown. And by lunchtime we'd be out in Bowring Park, out through and then we'd work our way back up, and I don't know how many miles we were putting on every day, but we were just pushing from place to place. And when the hills were good, they were going down, and when they were bad, they were going up.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
there wasn't a lot of flat land. This was before ollies or anything had been invented. It was just big 10 by 30 boards that you pushed. You might do a curb if you could, but that was it.
yeah,
And we did that hard, and it became a big thing in Newfoundland. Pike's Cycle Shop was the only place that had skateboards,
yeah,
and they usually had 2 or 3 in at a time. And the first Newfoundland Labrador skate competition, I believe, was in 1982. I remember being at that, but that culture, you talked about this a little bit earlier. Now, I came from a kind of alcoholic upbringing, with my dad being a drinker and my mom trying to hold everything together. Not an uncommon Newfoundland thing in the 60s and 70s.
yeah,
Dad was a fireman. Of course, he could drink at the fire hall. So, he'd do 24 hours, at the hall drinking, and then he'd have 72 hours off, and he'd come home and drink for 3 days and then repeat it all again. Um, and in school, being, kind of a skinny outcast, I didn't really have a lot of friends. I was always picked on. And one day I was on Route 14 of the bus coming home from school, and I just stayed on the bus. I didn't get off at my stop. And the bus did the loop through St. John's from the mall up by where I lived. And then it got downtown, and I got off the bus and I walked over to the games arcade. And there was a group of punk rockers hanging out there, and I went in and played some video games, and I met Clark Hancock. And that scene of punk rockers and skateboarders, and most of us were coming from some kind of a broken home. For the first time in my life, I felt like I found my
yeah,
people. And then I found this scene, and it changed my life. And I still, a lot of the core values, that I developed in those couple of years between sort of 13 and 17, hanging out downtown, playing punk rock and skateboarding, that changed my life in a way that still sticks with me today. Now, and to understand that a generation later, after I had left, you became the sort of skateboard ambassador for Newfoundland. And you've done a ton of stuff with skateboarding. It started with some videos with your crew, and I mean, there's a park back there now, and there's all kinds of other stuff. But you want to bring me up to speed a little bit on that history? Because I'm really fascinated to hear, what happened after I left town.
I think you and I have a similar origin story, in that didn't quite fit in with certain kids at school. Came from our downtown house. Kind of wish that I came from more of a normal background. My mom was 17 when she had me.
Yeah.
So I had John Lush was my stepdad, who and then who I love. And then my mom and John broke up when I was coming of age, 12 years old. So I didn't know what was going on. And then Nigel, who's the DP of Skeet, was my stepdad then. And, he and I butted heads, but then eventually became very close. And so I was at a real turning point in my life as well. And I'd grown up playing hockey and stuff. And like you say, got picked on by people or got beat up and didn't have any siblings and stuff. And then I remember Patrick Ward, who was like my best friend, he and I were getting out of hockey and getting into skateboarding. And we would go by downtown. And do you remember Joey Marr? Young Joey Marr?
No.
Joey Marr's, so Joey Marr was like our age, and we'd drive by or see Joey downtown, and he was amazing at skateboarding. We'd see him like, he was the smallest dude with all these older guys, and he would, he was ollie and war memorial steps. Like he was,
oh wow,
good. He was really good. And to me and Patrick, it was like Joey was like, amazing. And then then like Patrick and I would not have the nerve to go downtown. A lot of our crew would just skate at Bannerman Park, so we were like the Bannerman Park guys, and then eventually got the nerve to go downtown. And it was tough to get accepted. Like you're saying, Atlantic Place, like, did you have to hide your board under the stairs there, like so that they wouldn't take your board security, ports of food?
No, we were the original gang down there, and there was only one security guard at all ports of food.
Yeah.
He'd chase us out from, in smoking and at the Tim Hortons, and we'd go out to the step, and he'd chase us off the step, and then we'd go into the parking lot, and he'd chase us out. We all knew him, and he'd chase us around. Yeah. He was
we had a similar experience with Bruce, who was a security guard at ports. He used to come by and say purchase, and everyone would just have like a coffee that like they'd filled with water all day. And I think like going back to what you're saying about, you don't really know where you fit in. And then all of a sudden you find your tribe. Yeah. You find this community and you start talking to people and you realize that a lot of the people come from broken homes or, divorced parents nothing classist either. Like there wasn't like it didn't matter. Class didn't really matter downtown. It felt like, we weren't interested in that. Like, and one thing about skateboarding, as you and I still to this day skateboard, is that whatever life's problems you have going on, they sort of take the back of your mind when you're skateboarding. Like all you're focused on is this 50-50 grind right now. I just got to get this 50-50 grind. And then all of a sudden skateboarding becomes top of mind and you can relax a little bit and be free of stress and whatnot, and but there's also this strange camaraderie with friends when you go with a friend skateboarding that like you're pumping each other up. You're you know what I mean? And when you do that with 50 kids at Harborside Park and all this energy is flowing and everyone's like pumping each other up and it's a new sport or whatever it is. It's a new pastime or some sort of new activity, I guess. It was just, it was fascinating. I remember you said Pikes was where you got your boards. Pikes was closed when we started and Ballistic hadn't opened yet.
Right.
So all our boards were always either hand-me-downs or traded. Or as I was saying to these guys who run a shop in my neighborhood, I said, I remember calling the guy at Pro Skates and driving him crazy and being like, so what kind of board do you got? A Powell? What's a Peralta? And he goes, what does it look like? What's the size? He'd measure it and go, what's the concave like? Just asking question after question and driving the guy crazy. And he's like, oh my God, are you going to buy this? And then not buy it.
Yeah.
Just want to keep tabs on what your stock is like. Just in case for Christmas, I just want to see is there, but yeah, those were special times, man. I think I think that was what was really cool about downtown. And it wasn't just skateboarding. Like it was, there was a coffee shops like Hava Java had the guys in the back that played Dungeons and Dragons up top, you know what I mean? Or some sort of card games. And and it felt like to me that they finally found their tribe downtown. So it was like skateboarders, musicians, hacky sackers, you know, all kinds of people that came from broken homes finding their tribe for the first time. And I think that's what was so magical about downtown St. John's. And don't get me wrong, like I'm people seem to think that I'm anti-tourism. I'm not. Like look, I love I love those ads. I love that people are finally experiencing Newfoundland like we have, you know. But there is something I do miss about driving downtown and seeing a bunch of kids just hanging out and whatever they're doing, skateboarding, playing music, hacky sacking, playing Dungeons and Dragons, whatever it is, just hanging out, you know.
I think a lot of that's everywhere.
Yeah, there was a discovery, you know, and it was and like I said, years later, Joey became Patrick and I's best friend, and that to us it was like we started hanging out with our hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I still skateboard with Joey to this day. He lives down the road from me, you know, and he and I
great.
every couple weekends we go skateboarding. Now I will say, I'm sure you can relate to this. Is I used to go through a couple boards a year. I've had the same board now for more than a year, so I noticed like, and the same sneakers aren't fully worn, so it's getting less and less. But I got to get back out there more. Yeah. How do you find it going to skate parks and stuff? Like, do you have someone you can call to go with, or do you go by yourself, or do you have?
So I got back into it last year after I stopped. I was in Australia. We were on a big tour. We had a single in Canada. The States was starting to pick up. We had Australia and Europe was starting to pick up. So it was probably the most active the band had ever been. There was a lot on the line. There was a big crew touring with us. It was a big, you know, we were dealing with record companies in Europe, Australia, Canada, the States, management teams. It was a lot. And we were starting the Australia tour, and I went down to the beach one day with my skateboard because I always kept a skateboard with me. And I was just going down a little sort of paved incline, and I hit a stone. Not even thinking, just looking at the beach, you know, hit a stone, did a big wipeout and kind of just burned out the entire of my arm, right?
Yeah.
And I got up and I went home and I got in the bath and I was sort of soaking, getting all the scab off and stuff. And it hit me like, had I broken my hand, the tour would be off. 4 guys, 4 crew. I don't know how many other staff are working on this tour currently and how much money is behind it. And suddenly I got the fear. It was like, I got to be careful on the skateboard. And the next day I went out and I could hardly even push. I was so afraid.
Yeah.
So I stopped for that tour, which led to actually 20 years of not skating.
Wow.
I got into it last year. My wife's been sick for the last few years. So I'm finding I'm home more and I'm kind of just sitting on the couch a lot, you know, and I wanted to get exercising. I've never been much for team sports. My schedule doesn't really allow me to do anything scheduled. So I thought, well, I'll get a skateboard and just push it around. And I did, and I could not believe that I'd ever stepped off of it. I was like, how did I give this up? So and that was in December. So I had a long winter ahead of me. So I thought, I'm going to buy a little freestyle board because I can just do some stuff on the carpet inside, just kind of get my legs moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I spent all winter doing it. And I fell in love with it. I really don't have any people to skate with, but I am part of the MLM Canadian freestyle team. I'm their senior representative.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah.
And there's about 30. It's about 30 skaters across Canada on that team, and we have our own private forum. And there's any point in time, with any time in 24 hours, I can go to that forum. There's at least 3 or 4 people there. So I'm always dropping in and chatting and exchanging, you know, tip ideas and talking about shoes and, you know, all that stuff. I wish I've gotten together for a few sort of meets with some of the team members. You know, we'll all drive and meet in Oshawa at a parking lot for a couple hours. And I got to say, hanging out with some fellow skateboarders for an hour, my skating progresses 200%.
Yeah.
In that hour. Just because just being around them and watching them do stuff, it just gives you a confidence. You know, this thing you've been working on for a while. It's like, well, I'm just going to do it because you just did it, and then you do it, and you're like, why haven't I been able to do that for a month? And it's just being around these people. The stoke of it all is so incredible. I wish I had more of it, but
I know what you mean. There's an energy you ride.
Oh yeah, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that skateboarding is like punk rock. Like, I mean, I'll drive by a skate park and I'll see somebody in there skating, and I can just stop the car and walk in and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And we immediately start chatting. Same with
Yeah.
a bunch, I see a group of punk rockers hanging out in Toronto or any Halifax. I can just stop and just start talking, and we immediately have so much common ground, and it's such a passion, these things, you know?
I remember that going to Barcelona, 20 years ago, and you could just meet people at MACBA or whatever spot, like, New York. We went to Washington, D.C. There's a place there called Pulaski. It's called Freedom Plaza now. And that's been around since the 90s or 80s. And you don't know if you're going to be accepted or you're going to be outcasted by the locals.
Right.
And we met this guy Art and Quan and Owen and a bunch of local guys. And I'm still in touch with those guys on Instagram to this day, and you're right, that energy, I mean, they say, oh, we're going to come up to Toronto sometime. And you can't do that with other sports. You can't like go up to a guy and go, "Hey man, you play ice hockey?" Like, you can't do that. I mean, you play crazy eights, you gotta, skateboarding has that way of like, it's like a universal language. When you see someone on one, you could literally not even speak the same language and go, "Can I see your board?" And then do a trick. And then that person would get excited. And then, back and forth. Yep. There's a beautiful thing with that. I love that about skateboarding. It can take you around the world, but it's, well, my son got into skateboarding when he was 8, like you're saying, on like just a deck on the rug. Mm-hmm. And he was doing shove-its, and then, and sort of trying to learn how to do kickflips. And then he started coming out with me every weekend, he and my daughter. And I remember he was around like 11, and when it was like a Saturday morning, we usually get up and go to the park, and early in the morning I go, "Hey, you coming?" He's like, "Nah, I'm gonna go play soccer with my friends." And I was like, "It's fine. It's fine, right? I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go get Joey." And then I'm like, "Oh my God," I'm like heartbroken. My son doesn't want anything to do with skateboarding anymore. And then recently, it's been 2 years later, and he came over and he was like, he downloaded the new skate video game.
Oh yeah.
And I think you can actually clock the popularity of skateboarding.
Yeah.
Video games, like when Tony Hawk Pro Skater came out, skateboarding blew up.
Yeah.
And it became a big phenomenon. All the shows came out, Ryan Sheckler, all those BAM, all those things became huge. But now this new game's out. I noticed he's now asking me about like when I'm going to the park. So I don't know. I'm not pressuring it, and I'm also not saying, you gotta come skateboard with me. I don't want to put that pressure on him. But yeah, no, skateboarding, man, it's a beautiful thing, but it can kick your ass. And
it will kick your ass. But that's the beauty. I love it because it's a personal thing too.
Yeah.
Like I can go to the skate park and there's a bunch of kids there, and I, if I've got one of my cruisers with me or something, I might just push around for a half an hour. Just do, a pivot will be the most of anything I'll do. Yeah. Other times I'll go in and focus on tricks for an hour. But it's such a personal journey, it really is, and that's one of the things I love about it, and when you do have friends to share with, it's very cool. It's very cool.
It is. Well, I think born out of this is you and I. I go out to Belleville. My mother-in-law's out there, and I have family Picton as well.
Okay.
Actually, I think one time I was in Wapoose at like the dockyard, and I said I was from Newfoundland, and the people asked me if I knew you. And they're really lovely people. So I feel like all these signs are that we're inevitably meant to meet up at a skate park somewhere. So,
well, if you're coming out Belleville way, that's where I am. I'm like 40 minutes from Belleville. So
let's make it happen then.
Next time you're out that way, let's hook it up for sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had such a good time here with Nik. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us. More than that, thank you for dedicating so much of your life to inspiring the rest of the world to Newfoundland culture through skateboarding and videos and comedy and directorial efforts. You're doing amazing stuff. I love seeing Newfoundland reflected out through my little computer screen to me, not being in Newfoundland. And I'm sure the people back home love it as well. So it's a real gift you bring to everybody. And I just wanted to thank you for that and wish you all the best with everything.